these little figures here. This is something that I had a bit of a play with a while ago, and I want to sort of revisit it for you guys. This is a figures book that I have done some portraiture in. Some of it's successful, some of it's not so much, but there's more to do in there. So anyway, let's get cracking. I'm going to take the sheet off here. So I'll take this off. We're going to do a big page, and we're going to do lots and lots of little figures. Perfect, right. So what I've done here is I've searched for dancing silhouettes, and there's quite a lot. If you have a look here, if you search for dancing silhouettes, you can see here on Google Images there is plenty of inspiration. So I say just choose some of these, choose one, download a few, and use them as reference. The key to this, I think, is almost not to think too much. I think it's one of those exercises in actually being loose and free, where the more mistakes you make, the better, actually. So I'm going to be fast. I'm not going to be very careful. I'm going to make some mistakes, but that's kind of what I want. So I'm going to choose a relatively small brush here. What I'm going to do is use 2 glasses of water here. One of them is for mucky and one of them is for clean. So when I want to clean a pigment off, it'll go into that one first and then into there. And that means that your water lasts a lot longer without needing to be cleaned. So I'll tell you what I could do here as well. Now I have some of this spray, a little spray bottle full of water. I occasionally take this, sorry, I've got a brush in my mouth and I'm talking at the same time. I occasionally take this urban sketching, and it just speeds things up, because it means that if you get this and spray that on your paint, it means your paint is going to be pretty much activated straight away. So there's no messing about. Right, so we'll go in with the red, and I'm going to just choose a pose, and I'm going to, you see, a lot of coffee, I'm a bit shaky this morning. Right, so I'm going to make sure this is quite pigment rich, clean that, and then I'm going to grab some of this Hansa yellow, and I'm going to just do something like that. And then quite like the form, but I think it could probably do with a hand like that. That's like going up to like an elbow. Anyway, so there you go, number 1 done. You can be quite loose with these. You can splash some watercolour on there. So let's go with a nice rich blue. Now there's different ways you could do this, and it's worth experimenting. You can start with like the torso. I really probably need a bit of a wetter. You can start with the torso. You can use different bits of the brush. You can use just one colour. Or 2 colours. You can do a dry brush technique. You can drop in some dots of yellow and mix in some green values there. If you don't like a little bit, dab it out. Okay, so there's no rules. We are just playing here. If anything, I think I probably need a slightly wetter brush. I might trade this for a nice mop brush. so that I can have a bit more fun. Keep a little bit more so what you'll notice when you do a little bit more, when you start to free up, I'm trying to use at least 2 colours here for each thing, is a lot of this is actually about the initial mark making being sort of like gestural. Somebody asked me the other day, what does gestural mean when it comes to painting? Well, maybe this is a word I made up. I don't know, but I think of it as being like when you make a gesture. You know, if you were like acting or you were dancing and you use big gestures, you know, you use quite expressive, that's nice, quite expressive movements. So say, for example, if you were going to be drawing something really small and detailed, you do tiny little detailed dots, dot, 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 and it ends up being a bit miserly come out somehow. Whereas if you go in and you just use big, broad brush strokes and try and be gestural with it, sometimes that helps. Now, this exercise, you could go both ways. Let me find a good example here. So I'm going to grab some ultramarine, and I'm going to just... I need a bit more pigment on there. I'm going to take an example of a guy here who's holding his head and looking a little bit mad. And I'm just going to be just gestural with it. The body is just going to be a line like that, and then there's these legs. That is what I would call more gestural. It's just looser. Quite like the body actually. That's quite cool. See, straight away there, I've actually stop fiddling. I've actually used that as like a negative space, and that's quite interesting. So let me just double down on the experimentation and add a little bit of some dots of sienna in there. Maybe a bit of shadow across the bottom. There you go. And then the opposite of that, I would say, is more of a tight drawing approach where you would try and replicate more accurately what's there. Okay. So, just looking at that form across the shoulders. And then right. I might pull that door too, if that's all right. Can I just pull that door too?
Yeah, of course, sorry.
I don't mind a bit of clanging, but just while I'm recording.
No,
Thanks, Pickle. So yeah, we've got a little bit of washing up happening next door, so that's why you hear a bit of clanging and banging. So yeah, that one's done a little bit more carefully. I'm not quite sure about the octopus hands and this tiny piece here, but you get the idea. This is a very rough one, and this is a bit more constrained. It's nice to do a bit of both, really. The point is that it's a great way of just trying stuff. Now here I'm just trying holding it at the very end of the brush. Put a bit more pigment in here. This is getting a bit wishy-washy. Right. That's a really strongly pigmented one. That's nice. Okay, so I actually find that the funnest ones to do is when it is like super wet and see, the other thing is it's actually quite, you can either do this without looking at the thing that you're painting, or you can really double down on the observational side of it and use it as super quick observational exercise. Yeah, I quite like that one. I think what I might do is put a tiny bit of red just in the bottom of that one, and let it just magic its way up. Also, don't forget you've got this clean water here. You can add clean water in and it'll create some blooms. Okay, they're dry now, so it's not going to work so well for those. Right, where are we? Right, so I'm going to just have a quick look at my original drawings here. So let's go for a really dark. Really dark colour. So again, dirty, clean, and let's get some green here. I'm going to choose a bit of a red in there, I think. Now these kind of little daft sketches would actually be really cool on some little cards. You know, say for example, if you were doing just a really simple little art card. See, what I'm doing here is I'm actually using the pen more like using the brush more like a pen. Which is fine, but actually the point of the brush is, it's not the point, but it actually has a different series of marks that it can make. So do you play to the strengths of the brush? Are you playing to the strengths of the brush if you're using it like a pen? That's the other thing. So if you were to, say for example, if you're using, if you want to do a square or something really simple, obviously you could do that and then fill the square in, which is fine, but you could do that with a pen or pretty much any other media. But what you can't do with other media is, if you want to do a square, is do this, where you do that. If that makes sense. Because what you need, the thing that's unique about the brush is it has this long flat side. So those kind of marks, it's not something you can really make with a pencil. So if you're doing something in like this, you know, and you want to, let me find an example here of what I'm talking about. So yeah, you can do some that would be something that you would be not quite as easy to draw, if that makes sense, with a pencil or a pen, because what you're using is the side of the brush. It's just a thought anyway. Right, so let's do a few more of these. Let's do some, what other colours haven't we used here? Some of these lovely bright ones. I like these two together. These are some of my favourites. This guy here. What should we do here? What pose? Maybe like a walking one, or maybe like a running one, or maybe someone sat on a bench would be nice. Let's try that. So let's get some real strong pigment on there. This is someone reading a book. And then we've got this, should we put them on a bench? Let's put them on a bench. There we go. Well, it's fun, isn't it? Let's put a few little splashes of red in there. Why the hell not? Okay, so do a few more. And maybe a sort of star jump one would be cool. Now, if you don't feel hugely confident with just having a go at this, you can always start with a lighter colour and then sort of firm it up with a more of a firmer one later, if you know what I mean. Not sure about this one. See here again, I'm drawing. Let's get some of this bright red on here. And I'm going to be a bit more gestural here. Just try and free that up a bit. There we go. Put a bit more colour in some of these places here. Looks like somebody's sort of free falling, doesn't it? And then let's just do one more down here. What sort of shape is that? Maybe somebody's sitting with their back against a wall. So let's choose this lovely colour here. And the whole point of doing these really is actually not to just to be like to say, look at me, I can draw figures, because I really can't. But it's actually to say it doesn't matter, kind of. There's no problem with just having a play. So if I get a bit of Van Dyke brown, that's going to create a nice shadow under there. There we go. So there we go. I think actually what I need is a there we go. So that's a lot of fun. I hope you found that useful. Half an hour of play. The thing with, now you can go back in there and you could put some marks on with a fountain pen or a fine liner. You could coalesce them, you could cut them out and put a different one on a card as a birthday card. It's actually quite a lot of fun. The other thing is this technique you can use for anything. You know, if you're practicing doing trees, just go out and start on the yellow on the trees and then fill them in with blues to make greens, and it's just a really fun thing. Sometimes sitting down and actually enjoying art is not about completing a piece. In fact, it's really important not to do that, because it's only in this true loose play where there's no pressure on you to actually complete anything do you really, really learn. And I definitely think it's definitely worth doing. Just to give you a little bit of confidence with the media, and particularly with the watercolour, is it's all about the water, really. You have to be quite... it takes a while to get used to actually understanding the amount of water you need and just how to chuck it around. So I definitely would have a go at this. Right, I'm just going to add this in as a little bonus episode. The Line and Wash series that I've done recently is not done very well in terms of views, so I'm going to just punt this in as a kind of Kickstarter for the channel a bit. And it's all about terms at the end of the day, like line and wash, urban sketching, loose watercolour, whatever. They reach different groups of people. So it's just a case of making the balance between actually doing stuff that people find useful and and having the correct search terms so that the channel actually reaches people. Hi there, I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think, and we'll be back with more nonsense soon. Cheery, bye, have a good one.